Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Psychology and Spirituality, a bridge to a better life discussion. I'm your host, Marcia Trajano, and with me is Rejane Planer. Hi, Rejane. I would
Hi,
like to
Marcia.
introduce Hi, I would like to introduce Rejane to those who do not know her. She has an incredible resume, and I just wanted to highlight a few things that make her so special to be here with me today. Well, Rejane is, professionally speaking, she has an electrical and nuclear engineering background, right, and a master's in nuclear engineer from Military Engineering Institute from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. She moved to Austria in 1989, and there she worked for the International Atomic Energy Agency, mouthful, Rejane, for 27 years. And there she worked in many different positions in nuclear energy, nuclear safety, and security. She's also a long-term member of the IAEA Publications Committee and has coordinated dozens of publications and published as well several technical journals. Okay, back now to the other side of Rejane. Rejane is a writer, but she's also a poet, and she contributed to so many different articles to different Brazilian spiritist magazines. So some of them are in Portuguese, Presença Espírita, which is published by Mansão do Caminho. The other journals are Revista Internacional do Espiritismo Internacional, do Espiritismo, Momento Espírita, o Reformador, all of those published by the Spiritist Federation of Brazil, and Revue Spirit, I guess this is in French, published by the International Spiritist Council. Oh my, it doesn't stop there, everyone. Rejane has collaborated with two books related to spirituality or spiritism. They're called An Examination of Religiosity, Influences, Perspectives, and Health Implications with the Old New View of Consciousness, a review of philosophical and scientific approach to consciousness, and o seu, o meu, o nosso, which translates to yours, mine, or God's. Rejane is a co-founder and vice chair of the Association for Spiritist Studies Allan Kardec. It's in German. I'm so sorry. I cannot speak German, where she collaborated for 27 years as well. She's a member of the Society of Scientific Exploration and the Women in Nuclear. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Rejane, for all that you do. But before we start our conversation, if this is the first time you are watching this podcast-like program, please note that our program, Psychology and Spirituality, weekly talks are based on the works by Joanna de Angelis, and as such, it is a space to confront, to compare, to correlate, to expand concepts of spirituality from a psychological lens. And because of that, they bring insights for us to have a better life. Today's episode is brought to you by those organizations that Rejane is a member. And to know more about Rejane, please visit her site, www.rejaneplaner.org. Overall, our Psychology and Spirituality program is sponsored by AME Brazil, the TV Mansão do Caminho, the International Spiritist Council, and the United States Spiritist Federation. Make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you want to know more about what we do, check us out at spiritist.us. Finally, if you have questions, feedback, comments, please do write them down and we'll address them at a later episode. Rejane, we're here today to talk about death, which, by the way, not easy, right? Can you maybe tell us why is it so hard? Why do we even fear death?
It's interesting, no? Because if we are born once, we will die. That is the only certainty in our life, and still we fear. There are several reasons for fearing that. Uh, some are inner, come from ourselves, from within. Others are exogenous, that means come from where we live. I think if you can make a parallel. We just came out from a pandemic, uh, 2 3 years pandemic, and what we did during this time, we closed ourselves. We lived in within our house without going out, fearing that, fearing the unknown, what is outside. And this fear of the unknown is much deep in the human being. No? This is the fear of what we don't know, what we can expect. Those who have done some wrongs in this life, or maybe in other lives, in the subconscious, it's also kept as a memory. They will also have fear of what is coming. Maybe it's coming this, how we say, the end of the world, the final justice. That means they fear also God. They fear the judgment of God because they don't understand what God is. No? They don't understand what is the meaning of life. They don't understand what life is. And most of us don't understand what life is. I think what we could say is that this fear of death is really a fundamental fear, not
Yes.
a fundamental, a basic fear. No, is this
Yes.
fear of the unknown, the uncertainty of what exists after life, and we can analyze a little bit more of this fear, if you wish, looking at what are the how these what are the causes of fear, no? Why
Yes.
we fear and
Mhm.
why we come to this fear of death.
Can I say something else before? Because I'd love for you to go deeper into the notion of fear. Before we talk about death, let's talk about fear. But I wanted to perhaps, Rejane, um, bring another notion that we can talk about it later, actually. But if you think about, so we live and we die. And we're afraid not of this event, death, like you said, but what comes after, right? What is this thing called afterlife? Is an afterlife. And if I don't know, I'm afraid of even looking into it. But there's also a different concept. Maybe we have time to talk about it today in our just time together, Rejane. But it is also the fear. Sorry, I said here. I don't know if you can see this, but this is the afterlife, but before life, right? Which is what we don't know about ourselves, this infinite microcosmos of ourselves. And if that is so difficult for us to access it, we also are so afraid of what is inside this microcosmos, our self, right, our unconscious. We then are living in that cross between what was before and what is after, which both deal with fears. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, let's let's go to some um, paths, that logical
Sure,
paths, to understand a little bit more pedagogical, to understand first what that is and then
sure.
what we are.
Hmm.
Because to understand what we are, we need to look at the past, the present,
Yes.
The future will be what we are today. That means we look at the past and what is today. But that is almost a myth. Huh?
Yes.
For 150 years, the medicine didn't know exactly when the individual was dead or not. I mean, today we know that there are two types of death: the clinical death and the biological death. The clinical death is that occurs when the heart stops, the respiration function, and the heart function stops. And during this kind of death, the clinical death, or an individual can have the near-death experience, for instance, this out-of-body experience. And those reports that we read a lot in the spiritualistic and in the many also scientific journals.
Correct.
And the biological or the brain death, that means the paralysis of the brain function, this is really death. After that, the body starts then deteriorating, all the cells will die, and the death process, properly speaking, occurs, and it continues till the death of all cells. Then this is death. What happens after that is also interesting.
Yes.
Because when an individual is ill, terminal ill, for instance, its body is slowly getting weak. It means that it's losing itself already from life, although sometimes people try to hold life as much as one can, but usually the older people or the terminal ill people, they know what is going to happen, although sometimes they don't want to understand, to see, to accomplish.
So let me see if I can explain what you're saying, just for my sake. So what we're talking about, this is clinical death, biological death. Biological death occurs with the brain function cease, and at that point we start this degradation of the molecular level of your body, your physical body, right? So that's death, and then we are talking about the fact that we all fear death, but during the experience of having a terminal illness, there is a vitality that is start to diminish, right? And our organs and our cellular activities, I'm not sure, right? I start to diminish, and we start to get closer and closer to that clinical or biological death. But we emotionally may or may not be ready for that. Is that a correct statement?
Is that what I was going to say?
Okay.
We may or may not be prepared to that. Depend on how we prepared. Depends it depends also how we are going to this process with more attachment to life. That means attachment to the material life, to all the aspects of our physical life, our house, our car, our savings in the bank, our loved ones, friend, husband, friend, companionship, children, all that. What we have attachment to people and to things, and if we cannot detach from those things, of course we will experience that with more suffering. This is what I say. Then understanding what that is also helps. Why I say that? Because when you look from the spiritual point of view, we know that we are a soul, an immortal being.
Can you define that to the audience, right, please? Yeah.
Okay. Then if we know that we will live after this vestment, these clothes that we are wearing now, our body will die. And there is a process for this soul, what we call in Spiritism the perispirit, that means the astral body, or the whatever spiritual body, let's say in this way. There are so many names for the perispirit.
Correct.
Allan Kardec, the founder of Spiritism, named it perispirit. Others name it, like Paulo, the apostle, name it spiritual body, astral body, and whatever. But this body will need to be released from the body. And we know from the spirits, from the communication from the spirits, that this spiritual body, this perispirit, is attached to our physical body cell by cell. It's we say a body, but it's an energy field.
Yes.
Or composed of many different frequencies, depends on of our emotions. And of course, this needs also to set free, to liberate. And this is a process. If we are attached, of course, this opening the door, it will be more difficult. And we will not talk about biological death. I think that is no meaning. Everyone can look at that. But understanding how the body dies every day, how our cells renew themselves through this programmed cell death, I think it's called apoptosis, is the name, the technical name, also help us to understand that one day our body will die, and we'll have to face this process of freeing our spiritual body, our spirit, our perispirit, and like the butterfly, fly to the spiritual world. That means demystifying that is also important. That
Yes.
we get free of the fear.
Yes. Can we talk more about it, right? We started with what is death and why is it so difficult for us to talk about, Rejane, but maybe we can zoom in into the notion of fearing death, but also fearing the unknown after death, right? After the process of dying. Maybe we can talk about the fear itself. What do you think?
Yeah, let's talk about the fear of death, and that this is like they say it's the cause of the fear of death is almost ancestral, no? We can say, because it has been with the mankind since it recognized itself as a human being. Why? Is instinctive, no?
Yeah.
It's our survival instinct. That means we also fear death because we want to live. And in the past, in the beginning of the civilization, with the primitive human beings, what they didn't understand the nature, they didn't understand the storms, the rain, they didn't understand why so many seismic phenomena, or how many different how different nature behavior, and all those events they fear, because they could die from a flooding, they could die from a storm, they could die from so many things. That means fear is very much within our unconscious mind, our subconscious mind, no?
So it's almost like an inheritance of our all of our ancestrality, right? All the things that we bring as a race, in addition to our own fears that we bring, perhaps as immortal souls that have multiple existence. Can maybe we talk about it, the fact that it is this collective unconscious, that fear, right? It's there. All of us have that, carry that, even without knowing.
That means you mean, let's see if I understand. You mean that because so many people fear, we have this collective fear that also has influence in ourselves.
Yes.
This is what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that could be, of course, because we live this may sound a bit orientalist, but it's not. We are one with the world. We are all interconnected. I mean, now we are here talking, we are making a connection.
Yes.
And probably everyone who is listening to us is also connected to this same energy field that we are in at the moment. I mean,
love
fear
it.
Fear of that can raise and can multiply itself by so many people fearing. I think that makes a lot of sense. And of course, that is not good. And we could see during the pandemic time with the COVID-19. And we can see also when there is a terrorism attack, for instance, if you remember to September 11, many, many years ago, the world stopped. All that has also influence in everyone else. The individual needs to confront this exogenous fear with its own fear that this is a difficult word for me, inherited from its past, from its previous life, because we have a lot of subconscious fear that we don't even realize, that make us insecure, that make us jealous, that sometimes make us act a little bit more aggressive. We don't like what people say because it touch us in some issues that we didn't deal yet. I mean, and also when those catastrophic events happen, like also the tsunami in, I think, 2008, 2007 in Asia, the whole world had fear. What is coming now? Now here in Europe, for instance, we fear the war that is 800 kilometers far from us here. I mean, this multiplies itself, and of course, people that are more fragile, they have more fear, they have more distress, they multiply this fear and sometimes also transform it also in panic. Then there is a lot of causal factors of fear. One,
go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, the main one, we would say that it is the inheritance of guilt in the subconscious, in the unconscious mind. That is marked by all those factors that I said: jealousy, envy, rated, spite. All of this is psychological immaturity. These are all emotional insecurity that can trigger fear and panic or other depressive disorders of any time. And coming back to fear of that, we need to learn. We need to understand what that is. To learn, when I say learn, is not just read. It's really deep understand what that brings to us. If I don't say, okay, that is coming, and I feel myself as immortal. And we feel that when we are 20, we think that we have the whole life.
That's right.
We are immortal.
We're superheroes.
When you come to the 50s, you think a little bit more, you stop and think, oh, I'm not so immortal. I'm in the middle. In the middle of 100, that is a good perspective, very optimistic. But when we are in the third age, like we say now, we have to confront, and we need to confront this fear with reason and logic. Because if not, it turns to be pathological. And the pathological fear, of course, like the spiritual mentor, Joanna de Angelis, I think the people who are listening to us probably already know that Joanna de Angelis is a spiritual guide from Divaldo Pereira Franco, the famous medium of Brazil, and the founder of Mansão do Caminho, who is one of the sponsors of this series. I mean, she says that that with pathological fear, the person kills itself not to have to await that. That means the individual there are different ways of suicide. You don't need to commit suicide. You can commit suicide slowly by eating wrong, by not taking the necessary medicine, by hate. When you hate someone so much, you are killing yourself with toxins, with neurotransmitters that will trigger other substances in your body, and you get sick sooner or later. I mean, there is a lot of way to look at that and of fear, but all of them needs to go through logic and reason. If not, we cannot overcome.
It's quite interesting, Rejane, when we bring to us this notion that the more we dive into dissecting the concept of death, perhaps we're less afraid, right? And I really find what you mentioned to us here today, which is the fear of death is leading to certain behaviors that will trigger or accelerate death itself, which is a paradox of concepts. How do I kill myself because I'm afraid of dying, right? Love it. Very, very good.
To be afraid of God is not understand God.
Yes, yes, yes.
That is true. Because God, if you understand God, you don't put God as the same as we are. This anthropological God that does exist, and this is what religion has brought to wrong religion has brought in our society, is a figure of God that is so similar to the human being that it becomes a human being with all the emotions. Cannot be God. If it's God, is something, an intelligence that is much above our intelligence, much love, much more compassionate. I mean, this is, then God cannot be punitive. Cannot bring any aggression, and we have heritage, all this conception, wrong conception, misconceptions of God. The God that I think Einstein said that, and it's a famous phrase of Einstein, and I always mention because everyone says, he said that I don't believe in God, I believe in the God of Spinoza, something like that. But the God that he mentioned at that time, it was not the Eastern concept of God. It was the true nature of God, because he didn't believe in the anthropomorphic God that was the common view in the Judaism and the Catholicism at that time. I mean, he believed in the intelligence. There is a beautiful book from Einstein, is The World as I See It. It's beautiful. And then you understand his thinking and how he really understood the world and God. But now we went to another line of talk. Sorry.
So let's go back. Let's go back to death and fear of dying. What else can we talk about it?
The other, what I think we should understand is that to overcome fear and fear of death, we need to face our reality. We need to understand who we are, where are we going, from where we came. But mainly we need to understand who we are. Where are we going? We know. We are going to the spiritual world, and there we'll face ourselves. No one will judge us. We will face ourselves. Where we come from many lives that we don't know. Gott sei Dank, I say in German, but it's good for us that we don't know, because if we have memories from all our past lives, I would prefer not to know what I did 500 years ago. And I think no one, if you think about the level of society 500 years ago. If I was a man, I would be mistreating women.
Yeah.
That
And
is the
animals.
minimum. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't want to face this reality
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
what I was. I want
Yeah.
to face the reality of today.
Yeah.
And then you need to go in this travel within the knowing the self, this self-discovering, to identify what is the cause of my fear. Did I have, for instance, a mother who didn't want me, who was not prepared to be a mother? Maybe this is a cause of fear and insecurity in many people. Or some experience a difficult birth, and then they also came out to the world feeling insecure with fear, because inside the mother, they were protected, and then they come to a world that didn't protect them. This becomes an inherent fear also. It's a fear that is in the subconscious. It's from this life. Someone that was had a very restrictive mother and a very not caring father, or the contrary, or the very caring mother and a father who didn't, who was too rude, too aggressive. All those are problems that we have to face.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, those that will be emotional issues that will be triggered for in different situations, no? That can come, depends on everyone. What is our, I would say, our baggage from the last years? We'll have to face time to time some situations that will try to teach us not to repeat them again with the same traits, with same patterns, but change our behavior pattern that we learn. These are also, we fear that. We try to hide ourselves, or at least to wear a mask to hide ourselves from the society. And in this, there is a good book that we were talking before, and I think I can mention here. Probably you are studying that. It's called The Conscious Being, from Divaldo Franco, by the Spiritist Joanna de Angelis. And in this chapter, when she talks about fear and death, she talks about five factors that are ego mechanisms of escape.
Yeah.
And those are ways that the person hides its own issues, its own problem, no? Either by compensation. For instance, someone who has a weakness, is very fragile, physically fragile, tries to be a very good athlete. Jumping, swimmer, so on. But also in emotional areas, this can happen. Or by projecting itself in someone else, or by, what is the other?
Rationalization is one escape mechanism, right?
Yeah, displacement. Displacement. This is a interesting one, the displacement, because it's the unconscious transfer of what I am to someone else, or an emotion that I have to someone else. That is very interesting. Insecurity is one of the good examples, no? Or hostility. I don't like someone, and then I say that he doesn't like me. It's a transfer. Projection is another one. No? Is the repression of personality conflicts that causes the ego to project them onto someone else. That is another very, very interesting way. But of course, to talk one by one, we would need quite a lot of time. But all of them are doing what? masking
Yes.
fear.
Yes.
Fear. That means we are talking about fear and death, but there are so many other fears that have root causes in our subconscious that sometimes are from this life, from our youth, from our childhood, sometimes are from past lives. No?
So it's very good, right? This notion of fear and how the defense mechanism that we have, which is just a reaction, right? We're there to protect ourselves from ourselves, from our fears, from our emotional response. And Rejane, real quick, because I think it's we may have a pause here to talk about those emotions. And I often like to bring them up because it helps us understand, right? We have four basic emotions, and fear, in addition to joy, anger, and sadness, are those four basic emotions that every person goes through as a reaction to an external impulse. And fear, as we're talking here, fear, this basic emotion, is there for a reason.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We need that, right? We need that to be able to spring us to action, to protect ourselves from whatever. But it's very interesting because when we talk about, and you mentioned earlier, fear of death is based on the instinct of survival, that automatic reaction to something. So, and it can be as simple as, I don't know, I think, right? I think I heard a noise, and I think there is somebody that's going to come with I don't know, an object to hurt me. So boom, 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 boom. I'm afraid. I have all those reaction, adrenaline in my body. I have the fight or flight reactions, and it's perfectly normal. Fear of death, I contend, that is a fear that is interesting because holistically we all are, because of fear of death, we all are protecting life so that we don't die. But the fear of the fear itself, right? The fear of the concept of death is actually preventing us to live, especially as you mentioned before, in a pathological manner.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we could talk about, you mentioned the fight and flight. No, it's the basic instinct. Either with the animals, it comes from our instinct because it's present in the animal life. And when we understand these symptoms of anxiety is the same and fear, no? They are the two connected, the fear with this fight and flight symptom or survival mechanism. And if you, I have in front of me, but I will not show. I have in front of me here in the other monitor this nice picture of the stress, no? That goes direct in the hypothalamus and then releases so many neurotransmitters that will then go to the now I have in German, I think is I don't know the names. I know only in German. I'm sorry for that. The prolactin, you understand? But the noradrenaline go to the bladder. The bladder, some go to to different positions to different cells, but the noradrenaline and the prolactin go direct in the blood, in the B cells or in the antigen, and they also have. We'll need to explain about the cytosines and all that. I don't think that is not my area. I know I know a little bit. I need to say it's not my area. I'm a physicist and engineer, but I like learning.
Yes.
I like
Yes.
reasoning. And
Yes.
to understand the body reactions, we needed to understand the fight and flight, because this brings a lot of stress, and fear triggers the fight and fly, the fight and fly, and trigger all the release all those hormones that we will not mention here, but everyone can Google and find there's thousands of pictures of that. But it triggers those hormones that release stress, and one of them give us a push in the heart.
Yeah.
And after this push in the heart, that means that we fight, that we run. After that, the body gets other hormones that we relax. But that is not good for our circulation system, because it's stress. That means our veins will do that.
Yeah.
And as much as we do that, and as much as we force our heart, we are damaging the whole body. That means fear of that, if it's constant, it's also damaging our physical body.
Absolutely.
As any other fear. I think this
Yeah.
is what you can say much better, because probably you are from the biology.
No, I love it.
And I'm not.
No,
I would need to translate that to English, but
yeah.
some words I know, some I don't know.
But what I love what you're saying is the fear as an automatic mechanism,
Yeah.
and all those automatic response mechanisms to the body will hurt us. And one of the things that I want to say here, and it's maybe very naive for us to say, but I'm going to say it anyways, is the fact that we, as we evolve in our society, less and less, we are exposed less and less to potential death, right? So if we go back to, I don't know, 10,000 years ago, there were many, many, many more threats. Even 100 years ago, even 10 years ago, we are becoming a safer and safer society, that death is not every 5 seconds. Yet, we substituted the death of the body with the death of the ego, right?
Come back.
And
Good.
those fears and emotional response that trigger those stressors are equal. It doesn't change. Before, it was the lioness in the Africa savannah chasing us. Today is the fear that I'm not going to be able to fulfill the expectations at my job, or the expectation of my role as a mother, or another type of fear that is really all egoic, and our egos are so afraid that they're going to be at scrutiny, and they're going to be attacked, and they're going to be killed, that we have similar responses as if we were about to die, physically speaking.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. We substitute the fear of that for so many other fears. No, we want the best place in society. We want, and the youngs are risking themselves in those sports. The high, I don't know how you call that, the high sports, that mean jumping and so on. But coming back to the ego and the self, the need that we will never and we should not kill the ego. We will transform the ego along of many lives into the self. And if we imagine, and I like this figure, imagine a line between the ego and the self, where we want to achieve and where we are. And in this line, we are circled like in the cone.
Yeah.
That means, at the beginning, we are surrounding the ego, and we are still living with a lot of issues that pertain to the ego. That means the proudness, the power, all that mechanism of the ego. But then, as much as we start knowing ourselves, as we start dealing with ourselves, what in psychology they call the shadows. But what are the shadows? Our emotions that we don't realize that we are, the ways that we react. There are several what they call shadows, but it's what we are and what causes pain, suffering, emotional pain, sometimes also physical pain. But as much as we start dealing with them, we'll will evolve life by life, walking in each of them till at the end we can run faster and faster till we achieve the self. Joanna de Angelis, our spiritual mentor, she also has a nice figure for that. That we are like a diamond, a raw diamond. A raw diamond is dark, it's a stone. But
Yes.
when we start polishing it, when we start working nicely, it will shine. It's the self. The self will always shine. The other figure is if you look at a marble, for instance, Da Vinci or no,
Yeah.
Michelangelo. Michelangelo took a stone
Yeah.
and made this beautiful David or the
Yes.
Pieta. I
Yes.
mean,
Yes.
it's what we are doing. We are working with our ego, with all these ego attachments for power, the need for power, the need for being and I, because the ego is myself. I don't
Yeah.
see any other when I have a bigger ego. No, all the suffering is mine. The other does suffer. The other does need, and the people even ask God, please, I forgive him, but God will never forgive. It's not understanding God and being still with the ego. No?
Yes. Yes.
Once we are walking, all those misunderstanding about ourselves will attain the self, will shine, will make
Awesome.
from our inner child, like many say, will make a Michelangelo. Like
I love it.
Michelangelo will have a Pietà, I hope.
Love it. I think this is a great thought. I was going to ask if you had any final words to the audience as we come to an end, Rejane, but those are really beautiful thoughts, so that we all can have this mental picture of a beautiful Pietà or a beautiful David sculpture, as was done by Michelangelo.
Michelangelo.
So
Yeah.
with that, we
Thank you.
close our talk today, and I want to thank you who is watching us live, and thank you, Rejane.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I hope someone will listen and start working in his own Pietà.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.